Markets Now is brought to you by the 5-year anniversary of Brevant Seeds. Here's to 5 years of not just winning, but collecting one game-changing W after another. See all of our wins at Brevant.com/wins.
Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rook with Randy Martinson of Martinson Ag. Well, grains finally staging a bit of a recovery, or at least an update on Thursday, with cattle futures into new highs. And Randy, let's talk about the grain trade first of all. Rare to see corn, soybeans, and wheat all to the plus side, but do you think we're starting to see a little technical exhaustion hitting those markets?
We are. I mean, we've looked at, corn breaking below $4 here on Wednesday, bouncing back up above it. So and psychologically, that's a pretty strong support line. Soybeans seeing the same thing, finding some strong support as well. And the wheat market, we're kind of running through our, with the harvest pretty much almost wrapped up for winter wheat. Spring wheat seeing a little bit of concerns with its harvest because of some major rains that we just saw move through the northern regions here the last couple of days. So I think the market is seeing, a little bit of premium work back in for, some weather concerns, but also the fact that, we hit support and the market needed to bounce off of it.
Well, and last year we put those lows in at the end of August when we got up into that first notice date time period. Is it likely we could do that again, especially with as big a crop as we're talking about?
I think it's very likely we could see that same scenario play out this year. And that's kind of what I'm looking for, is that after this August report comes out, we're going to see, the market bottom out and start to see a little bit of premium come back in.
Really, these high yield projections for corn is what pushed us down into those contract lows. But we've heard yield numbers as high as 190. The average trade guess on the WASD next Tuesday is what, 184. Is it likely we have the biggest yield already priced in?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, we normally do price in the biggest yields early in the market. And I think right now the market is trying to price in a 185 to a 187 crop. I would be surprised if we get the corn crop up that high. I mean, there are issues out there. We know about the tassel wrap and we know about the drowned outs up here in the Northern Plains. And it might be enough to be able to pull the yield down a little bit. But overall, I mean, we are looking at a pretty decent crop out there. It's not in the bin yet, but I do think that the yield could be a little bit less than what's being anticipated right now.
So if you came in on the WASD at 184 or less, could you rally the market after that? Or is it just we're going to have too much seasonal pressure through the rest of August for that to be a possibility?
I think if we come in less than that, that means that there's going to be a little less chance of it being able to increase much more as we go into the September or October report. So I would think if it comes in at less than 184, we could see a little bit of support into the marketplace. If it comes in at 184, a little bit better, I think the market is just going to kind of wait till we finally start to get real boots out, in the fields, get some real in-field surveys taking place. So I think that's really going to be what kind of changes the trajectory of the market.
Average trade guess on soybean yields, 53 bushels per acre. Is that worked into the market price?
I think that is worked into the market. I would be surprised. I drove across the up here, the Northern Plains, North Dakota, Minnesota here last week. And boy, it's going to be tough to get our average yield up in this region just because of how late and how small the beans are. So we're going to have some really good crops down in the southern regions to be able to get that kind of soybean yield. So right now, I think that's probably the one that's the most vulnerable to see a little bit of lower than expected production.
Yeah, and August is the month we make soybean yield, and we're not out of the woods on weather yet there, are we?
We're not. The first, so far here, we've seen a lot of rain, which is not helping us because we've been kind of waterlogged. We need heat to get the crop to grow. We are starting to see that right now, the forecast is calling for above to much above temperatures the last half of August. That could cause some concerns.
Yeah. I really felt, though, like the exports on Thursday were better than expected. 125 million bushels for new crop corn exports. Did that help lift that market as well?
I think so. I mean, it shows that there's, at these prices, there's a lot of demand. And, you got to remember, China's out of the market. This is going to everybody else. And so we're seeing good demand from a lot of other countries that normally wouldn't be buying from us. And we even had some flash sales from countries that, Guatemala, I remember seeing that in years. So we are seeing some demand come from some of the non-traditional regions.
We still have new crop soybean exports, even with the 20 million bushels we tacked on Thursday. They're still behind normal and behind last year.
Well, yeah, they are. I mean, in China, it makes a big impact as far as the soybean exports are concerned. And with them out of the market, we're still seeing sales, decent. But at this point, for new crop 25, we're running at a 20-year low right now for soybean sales.
When does China have to come back into the market and buy new crop soybeans from the U.S., Randy?
I mean, that's a good question. I think they will have to buy from the U.S. I just don't think logistically they can get it all from Brazil. So I do expect them to come in, but I wouldn't expect it probably until we get into the September timeframe or until we can get some sort of a trade deal finalized with them.
Wheat market, spring wheat. Are we trying to build, or should we be putting some weather premium into that market, do you think?
Oh, I think we should be. I mean, the yields, have been variable from the first stuff that's been harvested. Now, a lot of it was right before these rains came in here, towards the end of last week and the beginning of this week. I think there could be some concerns about quality starting to creep into the marketplace right now. I'm not looking for falling numbers so much, but I mean, we could be looking at scab as an issue. We've had some pretty humid, wet days. Guys, have been out and put fungicides on, but right now it does look like we're seeing, not the optimal harvest weather.
And we had kind of a reversal in HRW wheat on Wednesday already and built on that on Thursday. But do you think that the entire wheat complex can continue to rally here? Can we get a post-harvest rally in winter wheat?
I think we can. Seasonally, we normally see that. I think right now, our demand has been fairly good. If we can continue to keep exports rolling, I think that's certainly going to help to stabilize the wheat market and give it some strength. It's going to depend on where corn goes. I mean, if corn can continue to see a little bit of strength, that's certainly going to help the wheat market.
Couple of questions on geopolitics and tariffs. First of all, it looks like the president is trying to broker a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. What do you make of that? How will the market react to it?
Well, I think at this point, that will, I think, put a little pressure in on the wheat market, just because it'll open up and maybe make shipments a little bit better out of the Black Sea. But they're looking at some production issues in the Black Sea region as well, as both Russia and Ukraine are thinking they're going to see a little lower wheat production. But overall, I don't know if it'll have a big impact. I think it'll actually impact the outside markets like crude oil and fertilizers a lot more.
Yeah, that's a really good point that you make, because it's already increased prices for a lot of those components. The tariff battle obviously continues on between countries we already have deals with, the EU, India, some of those. Is the market, I guess, paying attention to that right now?
It doesn't seem to be. I mean, I think once we get some, actually ink put on paper, they'll pay a little more attention to it. But right now, we haven't seen that, and it's just a lot of comments flying back and forth. In none of the countries, even though we've increased some of the tariffs on some of them because of some actions that they've taken that haven't been deemed as favorable to the U.S., I think. Until they start doing some sort of a response, it'll just kind of be news for the marketplace.
Right. Today was the day that we saw all of these tariffs go into effect, anywhere from 10 to 50%. But it doesn't really matter until they retaliate.
I think so, because I mean that's really when I think we actually figure out what's going to happen as far as with the tariffs. The biggest one I'd worry about right now would probably be the one against Brazil, where we've got the 50% tariff, which it's going to impact coffee and it's going to impact beef, which that's going to raise prices. We'll see how if we get some sort of a deal there. But a lot of countries, whether it be Brazil, whether it be European Union, neither one are really being too excited or too worried about talking to the U.S. to try to fix the problems.
Yeah, no doubt. Finally, let's talk about quickly, what are your old crop and new crop marketing strategies as we start to move into harvest and before first notice day here on September contracts?
I hate to tell guys, but for old crop, I think we have to rip that Band-Aid off and move the crop. I mean, if you got basis fixed contracts, or even if you have cash contracts, you can't roll them ahead to the next month, because that roll from the September to the December is just too wide. I mean, we're looking at 20 to 25 cents. We can own it better on the board or cheaper on the board than that. So I would tell guys, sell the old crop, look at doing some sort of call strategy. For new crop, I'd start looking at getting basis locked in against anything that has to be delivered off the combine, as you know, it's going to be tight space for elevators, and logistics is going to cause a concern there.
Absolutely. We're going to have some extra bushels to find a home for. All right. Thanks so much, Randy Martinson with Martinson Ag. That is Markets Now.
You were right.
You were right.
You were right.
Well, you were right. When you choose your seed brand, there's winning, and then there's...
You were right. Should have gone with Brevant seeds.
When you choose Brevant seeds, you don't just win. You get to be right. Don't just win. Win. Talk with your retailer or visit Brevant.com/win to get started.